In March of 2022, Nigeria's Consumer Protection Commission raided the offices of 7 loan companies at once: Go Cash, O Cash, Easy Credit, Cash Cash, Speedy Choice, Easy Money, and Soko Loan. Now, let's just get to the fact. Not for fraud, not for, stealing money or anything like that, but for what they were actually doing with consumers' phone contact. Now, let's get into the gist. Now, here's how the trap is actually built, and it's important to understand that it's a design and not an accident. Now, basically, you need money quickly. You download the lending app. The application takes about 4 minutes. No bank statement, no collateral, no guarantor, and somewhere in those 4 minutes, the app actually asks you for a permission that has nothing to do with lending at all. It actually asks to read your contact. Now, you need to stop and think about what a contact list is actually. Now, let's put in context. Now, basically, this one is not data about your phone. It's just a list of every person who will be embarrassed on your behalf. Basically, we are talking about your mother, your pastor, your boss, that colleague you actually sit beside, ex-partners, and to be very candid with you, some of your clients. Now, basically, a loan app that has your contact list does not just have your information. Instead, it actually has your reputation itemized with phone numbers attached. And you tap on allow because the loan is for tomorrow, and the permission screen actually takes about 2 seconds. Now, here's the part that matters legally, and almost nobody who taps on allow actually understands it. Now, basically, granting an app permission to see your contact is not the same as granting permission to contact them. Now, basically, it's certainly not permission to send them defamatory messages about you, and under the Nigerian Data Protection Act, that second thing was never yours to give away in the pop-up, and it was never theirs to take in the first place. But that's exactly what happens at scale for years. Now, the business model here is actually worth naming plainly because it explains everything else. Now, a conventional lender manages risks by accessing you before lending you any money: credit checks, income verification, and sometimes collateral. To be very honest with you, this one is kind of slow and expensive, but a predatory digital lender actually skips all of it and manages risks on the back end instead, by making therefore socially unbearable. Now, basically, they don't need you to pay the money if you can. What they need is for you to know who will be ashamed of you if you don't. So when the payment is late, sometimes by even a single day, the messages actually go out. Now, basically, these messages does not go to you. Instead, these messages goes to your contact list. Now, basically, you get broadcast messages naming you as a thief, a fraudster. Sometimes they call you a criminal, and some of them even include your photos. Some went to a person's entire address book at once, and the debts involved were often too small. The amount is almost beside the point, and the mechanism was just humiliation. Now, Nigeria's Federal Commission on Consumer Protection Commission, which is the FCCPC, established under the 2018 Act, began receiving these complaints in volume. Now, basically, the regulator's position was blunt: a high default rate does not entitle a lender to inappropriate recovery method, and borrowers in genuine difficulty should not face defamation as a collection strategy. Now, in 2022, the FCCPC creates Nigeria's first registration framework for digital money lenders. Before this, there was essentially no register at all. January 2023, Google changes its Play Store personal loan policy for Nigeria, requiring approval documentations, and the commission asked Google to ban lending apps from accessing borrowers' contacts and images entirely. But let me shock you. Even as of today in 2026, I did a little experiment and I tried to borrow money from OPay, and a requirement for me to borrow money from OPay, which OPay claims is Easy Money, that is their lender rather, or like a partnership, required me to grant them permission to access my contacts. So it just doesn't make sense to me that in any way that we're trying to fight this, these apps still do what they do. But that's a talk for another day. Now, through 2023, the delistings actually begin. By late October that year, roughly 45 lenders had been delisted, 172 were approved to operate, 84 more was on the watch list in August. The commission also removed over 180 apps from its own register. By October of 2025, 434 lenders fully approved under this new framework, with the 2025 regulations explicitly banning contact list access, banning shaming as a recovery tactic, banning pre-authorized loans issued without active consent, and requiring compliance with the Data Protection Act. Now, non-compliance penalties run up to 100 million naira and above, and that is real regulatory response. And I want to be fair about that. Basically, it's more aggressive than what most countries have actually managed on this. But notice what this one actually does and it doesn't do. Delisting app from Play Store, or let's say the App Store, does not mean this app is actually uninstalled on the phones of people who already have it. It does not delete the contact list the operator already copied, and an operator who was already ignoring the Data Protection Act is not necessarily deterred by being removed from a register they were happy to operate outside of. So several delisted operators simply reappeared under new names. The register tells you who is playing by the rules. It cannot tell you who has actually stopped breaking them. So practically, before you borrow, check the FCCPC's approved list. Basically, this one is kind of public. If the app isn't on it, that is the entire decision. You do not need any other information. When you install, if a lending app asks you for your contacts, photos, or media access, you can just simply deny it. If the app then refuses to function, you have learned what the app is actually for. A lender that cannot operate without your address book is not just accessing your credit worthiness. If you are being harassed right now, do not actually delete anything. Basically, don't delete the messages, don't delete the call logs, the screenshots, because when we put it together, that's kind of evidence, and deleting it is the single most common mistake by everyone who has been harassed before. So basically, what you need to do is to report to the FCCPC and report the data breach to the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. Tell your contact what's happening before the messages arrive, because the shame only works if it's kind of like a surprise. And know this clearly: harassment does not erase a debt, but a debt does not actually authorize harassment. There are two separate questions, and the lender needs you to believe there is just one question. Now, the thing I keep coming back to is how cheap this was to build. Now, basically, there's no fraud, no hacking, no technical sophistication, just a permission dialogue most people tap through in 2 seconds. And a correct guess about what the person will pay to avoid being embarrassed in front of everyone they know. That's not a lending business. That's a shame business that happens to move money.